Hi, in this video we're going to learn how to use something called the percent equation. So far you've probably learned how to use proportions in order to solve percent problems, and this method, though different, is very similar and used for a similar purpose. So after you've learned this method, you may want to decide, do you prefer proportions or do you prefer the percent equation? All right, so what is this percent equation? So if you see a problem in which it tells you A is, and I'm just using variables for now, A is P% of B, well, this translates to A, well, when you think of is, what does is mean? Is means equal. So A equals P percent, as we know, is out of 100, so P out of 100 of B. And when you take a percent of a number, the operation that we use is multiplication. So these two things are exactly the same. So if we see a word problem or any percent problem, we can turn that percent problem into something that looks like this and then solve for whatever is unknown. So let's take a look at an example. Okay, so here we have an example in which a car salesman is earning 6.5% on every single car he sells. And so he sells a car for $21,800, and he's pretty happy about it because he gets to keep some of that money. And we need to figure out how much of that money he gets to keep. All right, so basically what we're trying to find out is what is 6.5% of 21,800. So we can go ahead and write that down. 6.5% of $21,800. All right, so that is what the question is asking. Now we have to figure out how it translates. So we've learned how to convert percents into fractions as well as percents into decimals. And in this particular case, it might be slightly easier to work with a decimal, so we can just multiply using the calculator. All right, so in order to convert 6.5% to a decimal, we can go ahead and move the decimal point over 2 places to the left, and we get 0.065. So that 6.5% converts or translates to 0.065 as a decimal. Now, whenever we see of, remember that that means that we need to multiply. So 0.065 times 21,800 will give us what is 6.5% of 21,800. So when we work that out, we get $1,417, and that is the amount that the salesperson was paid for his commission. So that's good news for him. All right, let's try one more. Okay, so this question is different for a couple different reasons. What is unknown is different here, as well as the format of the question. It's no longer a word problem where you can see exactly how it applies, but that's okay. We can still use the percent equation in order to solve for what we don't know here. All right, when we see a question like this, we want to go ahead and translate things word for what we know they are. So when you see what, that is an unknown. What percent? We don't know. So since we don't know it, we can go ahead and put a variable there. So I'm going to put my favorite variable, x. So what percent? We know percent is just percent. So that's that right there. Of, we recently learned when you see of, the operation we use there is a multiplication. That's not an x, that's a multiplication sign. 25, well, 25 is literally just 25, but I'll write that there. Is, and is, as you know, is the same as equal. And 60 is literally just 60. So now we have an equation that we can work with. So x percent, remember that x percent, or percent means out of 100. So x percent times 25 is equal to 60. Now we can go ahead and simplify the left side. Remember that if you see 25, that's just 25 over 1. And so we can go ahead and multiply the numerator by the numerator to get 25x, and the denominator by the denominator to get 100. And that is equal to 60. All right, so now we have to isolate our variable. We need to know what x is, so we need to get x alone. So we have to do this one step at a time. Right now, the left side is being divided by 100. So in order to get that away, we can go ahead and multiply by 100, and that will happen. However, whatever you do to the left side of the equation, you know by now you have to do to the right side of the equation as well. So we have to multiply the right side of the equation by 100. And so we get that 25x is equal to 6,000. All right, so now we're pretty close to the final answer here. We see that 25 is being multiplied by x. So in order to isolate the x, we have to do the inverse operation, which is divide by 25 to get rid of that. But of course, whatever happens on one side of the equation has to happen on the other side. So we go ahead and divide the other side by 25 as well. And we get that x is equal to 240. And that is the percentage, 240% of 25 is 60. All right, so you may be wondering, before we close this video, you may be wondering if you could have used proportions to solve this. Yes, you could absolutely have used proportions to solve this. And so as you do more and more of these questions and get more and more practice in, you'll be able to make whichever choice you prefer, depending on the question. So always good to know multiple methods, and this method is very, very common. You'll see other people using it, so it's very important that you understand this method as well. That's it for now.